Hello, everyone. I am Christine Gritman, and welcome to How I Do My Job with Agorapulse. So, on this show, which is coming at you the first Wednesday of every month, we are talking to people who are in the trenches of social media for major brands to talk to them about how they solve some of the challenges or utilize some of the tools that all social media managers are aware of. Today, we are talking about influencer marketing. It is such a buzzword. We've all seen people do it wrong, and we're seeing people do it right, and we're seeing a shift in what that even means. And the perfect person we thought of to talk to today is Sophie Jameson. She is the chief TikTok officer for Hasbro. She has been on both sides of the influencer equation and, in fact, still is. So, we're going to talk to Sophie about, first of all, her own background as an influencer for that perspective, and then also how she is helping Hasbro, specifically Nerf, utilize influencers as well. So let's bring on Sophie. Hello, Sophie. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Now, when my boss Paul Bradley told me about you and your story, I was like, okay, we have to find some way to work with this person just because it's such an interesting story. So, if we could start there, let's talk about it all started from passion, right? It all just started from a personal passion. So, let's talk about your journey with Nerf.
Yeah, absolutely. All of this has been an accident, to be honest. So, started a sophomore year of college for me, which was right when the pandemic really began. Went home from college because college is shut down and was just super bored. Had always loved Nerf, had an Instagram channel about Nerf, and TikTok was popping off. So I was like, let's just try this. It's just something to pass the time, have a creative outlet, and kind of just break up the monotony of just being home all the time. So started posting TikToks, and I was having a lot of fun with it, doing transitions, like what I call like magic transitions, making skits, sharing facts and information, and just having a lot of fun with it. And it pretty quickly took off, completely to the shock of me. When I hit like 100 followers, that was super cool, and that was all that I needed to be satisfied with TikTok. I was just trying to share something I was passionate about. And then pretty quickly, it really took off. Within 6 months, I had over 1 million followers on Sophie Lightning is the
Wow.
creator name.
Over 1 million followers. That's pretty impressive. So what were they coming for? What was the key to getting that type of following for what you were doing?
Yeah, like I said, to begin with, there was no like strategy. There was no goal ROI. I wasn't trying to like get 1,000 followers a day. Just genuinely posting something that I was proud of and that I was hoping other people would enjoy. And then the audience was pretty varying. You had people who did really enjoy Nerf, and that was kind of the core. Then you also had a lot of people who haven't touched a Nerf blaster in 20 years, but they just found it entertaining anyway. And then there was this whole subset of people who didn't care at all about Nerf, but they just liked seeing someone just being genuine and doing something that they were passionate about. So the recipe has always been like 99% authenticity, 1% good videos. So that was really the integral thing that set my channel apart from a lot of other people's, because a lot of people were joining TikTok to get famous, and I was doing basically the opposite. So it was just this really interesting thing, and I quickly realized that the videos where I wasn't writing a script beforehand, I wasn't even doing too much editing, I was just sitting there talking about something I loved, were really doing well.
Now, were you doing this on multiple channels, or was TikTok really your home base for Sophie Lightning?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, I had the Instagram account, which had I think about 10,000 followers. It was just pictures. That's not very time consuming for me, but it was still somewhere where I could just share because I had a lot of Nerf blasters. I was collecting them. But the Sophie Lightning like personality and everything really was housed on TikTok, and to this day, it's still pretty much exclusively TikTok.
Now, TikTok seems to be where a lot of the influencer content is moving. Like yourself, a lot of people started with Instagram. Now, TikTok is really catching off. What about TikTok for you as a creator? We can talk about your job with Nerf later, but
Yeah.
as a creator, what for TikTok was special for you, and what do you think made it a great place to connect with that type of passionate audience?
Yeah, there's a couple factors. I think the first one being that not everybody is just immediately 0 to 100, just becoming a full-time content creator. And YouTube videos take so much effort. So that's where people used to go as a home base. But I was in college. I did not have the time to sit there and edit a 10-minute long video. So the shortness factor was really what brought me in, because I could still tell a funny, engaging story, but just in 60 seconds versus 10 to 15 minutes. And then the other thing is the For You page, which is just this incredibly smart algorithm that finds people who didn't even really know that they liked Nerf, but TikTok knew that they would like Nerf. So it just really opens up into this super unique audience that I don't think you could find on any other social media platform, really, at least at that point in time.
Did the way you created your content, or the type of content that you created on TikTok, evolve as your following evolved, or did you just kind of keep on doing what you had done at the start?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. The content, obviously, it got better over time, because I was just learning more and seeing what would do well. But still, to this day, every video that I put out is just something that I want to put out. It's not what I think is going to go viral. It's not, trying to follow some specific algorithm on my channel, at least. So the content has evolved a bit, but at the end of the day, it's still pretty core to those initial couple of months.
Now, at what point did you start doing kind of influencer work? It started out as just you saying, here's what I love. Was there a point when brands started reaching out to you, whether Nerf or otherwise? Was there a point where you started being able to monetize or, get stuff?
Yeah, so hot take, actually, I don't really like the word influencer. uh Prefer creator. I think it's just this weird thing that there's like a lot of heat right now against influencers and that phrase. And I'm not trying to like influence people to do something. I'm just creating something. So but it was only a couple months in, and I had a G Fuel reach out, and we did a brand deal, and then started to have more brand deals. And I had to make this decision probably 4 to 6 months in. I quit my job. I was selling shoes at a mall. It was actually an awesome job, but I actually was able to quit from that because I was making more from TikTok than what I was making, working retail. And then there came a point where I had to decide what was worth my time and what was something that I did actually want to promote. So out of all the like brands that were reaching out to me, I would only accept maybe 5%. And then, because I didn't want it to be super flooded, I didn't want my whole channel to be an advertisement.
And you also wanted to keep doing what you were doing. As you said, you're a creator. It's not about the influencer work for you. So what was some of the criteria that you used when judging who to partner with?
Yeah, so this goes all the way to today. When you're working with a creator, let them create. So that was the first thing. If they were like, we want a script, we want you to read this script to the camera and just use your likeness, that was a hard no. Obviously, just being sensitive to the audience. My audience is primarily, younger kids, 10 to 20-year-olds. So didn't want to promote something that wouldn't fit that audience. And then just overall the brand's reputation. I did a lot of research before I'd work with any of them. So something that fit my brand and I felt like would be, really helpful for both of us. And then, of course, just how they handled the creatives. So, for example, G Fuel, I made a video one time for them that was like really focused on G Fuel, and they were like, this isn't actually good. We don't want this. We want you to just integrate it a little bit. So I had never done any of this, so I really appreciated that lesson, and instead would make a video that would just quickly mention the product in like a cool way that fit, like a types of Nerf player, the G Fuel player, and those would do way better. So that was a really important lesson for me, was that you can integrate a product and integrate an advertisement in a much more authentic way than just standing there being like, yeah, buy this product.
Yeah, and that certainly, feels a lot more authentic, and authenticity, as you said, is really what hits. So now let's talk about the story of how you came to work with Nerf. I love this story, but I'd love to hear you tell it to everyone.
This story is so funny. I feel like I'm telling this story all the time, and it still makes me emotional. It's just so cool. So obviously, absolutely love Nerf. Have loved Nerf since I was a little kid. Always wanted to work at Nerf. I remember being in like 8th grade telling my teachers, and they were like, okay, whatever. So Nerf put out this job description. I got it on a Friday. I got an email, and it was Nerf Chief TikTok Officer. for 3 months. You would make 10 to 12 TikTok videos for their account. And the way that they promoted it was awesome. They were saying, like, we have no idea what we're doing. We need someone who actually knows what they're doing. We need their help. The way to apply was to make a video. And just two really funny things that happened that day is my eye doctor called me and was like, this job would be perfect for you. And then literally everyone in my life texted me the job description. So everybody, like, ever was like, you need to apply for this job. So I made my video, and it was just exactly what I was doing. It was authentic. It was just like a conglomeration of a lot of videos that I had made in the past, showed some transitions, editing, all of that. And then they reached out again to the top 10, and we did an interview and sat down for that interview. I was actually in Hawaii at the time, which was just this crazy coincidence. I was in Hawaii making content.
I was about to say, did you have your Nerf stuff with you in Hawaii? Do you travel with Nerf?
Of course.
I love that.
The day before I went skydiving with a Nerf blaster. That was like a good like pep up. Like, I went skydiving yesterday. I can do this interview because I was so nervous. And then I did the interview and felt really good about it. And then the next day, I got the job and got to just live in that for a couple days in Hawaii and just couldn't believe it. And then it began, and now the 3-month gig has turned into 18 months. So
that is incredible. So they originally, first of all, I love the mindset they were coming from, which is the creator community knows more than we do about this. That was absolutely brilliant. Now that you are there, now that you're on the inside, have you gotten any further insight from them as to how that plan came to be? Or are you just, not asking questions, just happy to be here?
I mean, of course I'm happy. That was my boss, previous boss. He's recently left the company, but he was such an awesome creative. And so that was kind of his idea, as well as working with this agency. And, he was like, let's just do this. Even if the creator isn't that good, it's a really great PR story, the dream job. We always see those ads in like Adweek and Forbes, like test video games, sleep for a month, whatever it may be. So this fit that category of like the dream job. So they got so much press hits off of that. But also had a feeling like Sophie Lightning is exclusively doing toys and has over 2 million followers. So there was something working there. There were so many people who applied who were also toy channels. So I think that they knew that like it could be something really special, but even if it wasn't that special, it was still a really good marketing strategy.
What was the video that you created for them? What got you in? And have you seen any of the others? Have you since seen any of your competition after the fact?
Oh, it was all public. So it was all on this hashtag, and I'm not going to lie, like I was checking that hashtag 50 times a day, seeing who had applied. There were people with over 10 million followers applying. And I just remember being like, there's no way I'm getting this. Like, why would they not hire the really famous person who's verified 10 million followers? And their videos were super different than mine, getting way more views. Honestly, they were doing like pranks and just like blasting the product and then like doing a flip or something. My video was like, here's why I should be CTO. I turned my car into 1,000 Nerf blasters. I love Nerf since I was a child, and then like put a child photo in. And then I went skydiving with the Nerf blaster. I was the first person to ever do that. So mine was a little bit more like informative. And yeah, I was definitely, honestly, so nervous. And I thought there was no way.
Well, I mean, that was probably to your advantage. You had that authenticity. You weren't like, you know what, let me sell this. You're just like, I'm going to be me. It's what's been working so far. So as you said, it was originally for a 3-month gig. It was basically a prize. So how did it evolve into this actual full-time position that you have grown it into?
Yeah, so those first 3 months, we were still working with an ad agency. So it was, it's almost like a completely different job than what I do now. When I think back to those first 3 months, I would ideate a concept. It would go through a lot of people, go through the ad company, come back, and then I would film it. And then I would film like 5 a week. It would go through all these approvals, come back with feedback, and then I would redo it the following week. And that was it. I didn't even post the actual videos on TikTok. I helped write the copies, but I didn't fully write the copies. So it was like a trial period. And I think the second video we did had over 500,000 views. and we had 5,000 followers. So they were like, wow.
There's something here. This is a strategy worth investing in.
Yep. So I think it was 60 or plus days into that 3 months when they were like, would you do another 3 months? And I was like, absolutely, of course. And then in that second 3 month like bunch, I started to have a little bit more freedom. I was posting, I was writing the copies. It was still going through a lot of people and a lot of approvals. But I was able to reply to people in the comment section, and then kept extending. So now I don't even know if anyone on the Nerf like someone has to, but I'm the only one that really goes on the TikTok ever now. I post everything, write all the copies. I don't run my ideas through anyone. I just send my videos to legal to make sure that, they're not going to get mad. But other than that, there's really no like approval process. I also manage other influencers, work on other things. I'm hosting a Nerf Fan Fest live stream Friday, helped launch the mascot. So the role has just continued to evolve. And at this point, it's really, really cool.
So now when you came in, so you had already been a creator as Sophie Lightning. How did you have to kind of shift that lens? How did the content that you were creating differ once you were creating content for Nerf? And I don't mean your Sophie Lightning content. I mean your Nerf content.
Yeah, that was the hardest hitting question that they asked me in the interview is why would someone follow you and follow Nerf? Like, how are you going to differentiate that content? So that was definitely the biggest like struggle for me at first. And I honestly don't know exactly how it happened. It was just, going through the ideas with Will is his name. And we would go back and forth and go over concepts, and he would help me a lot, like see the brand side a little bit more, see, a little bit more of like an ad side. Not really, but just adjust it ever so slightly. So now my channel is very like informative, and then this one type of skit, and then transitions. Where the Nerf channel, it's actually gotten to the point where I enjoy making content for the Nerf channel more now, because I feel like I'm like writing mini TV shows and telling these really intricate storylines. And then they'll be like, here's the product of the month that you need to promote. So I have to like integrate it into authentic content. And it's a really cool challenge. So the content is actually like incredibly different at this point. The only thing that's the same is that I'm not acting like in any of this. I just love Nerf, so I'm pretty much the same, but the content is honestly very different. And now the Nerf channel is like popping off, getting almost 1 million views per video, which is just really cool to see.
Absolutely. Now, in your position, as you mentioned, you're not just working with the influencer Sophie, you are working with other influencers. So I'd love to hear how you kind of came up with a strategy for that. Did you inherit some of the influencers they were already working with, or did you kind of create that program from scratch?
Yeah, so it was all inherited. They were working with a couple other. So when I haven't even thought about this in a while, actually. When I was first hired, I would work with the influencers, and we would work with like 4 to 5 a month. We would have one go do like a Nerf makeup look, and then have another one do like action sports. So we would work on concepts with them. But at this point, we're working really, really well with Josh is his name. He's awesome. So I inherited him, but now that, like I mentioned, my boss has left, I do everything with Josh. So right now, our influencer strategy on TikTok is pretty minimum, just because we're heading towards the end of the year. So it's really just me and Josh at this point. But yeah, Josh is awesome to work with. And at this point, we just sit down, and like I said, I say, here's what you need to do, like X, Y, and Z, and then go do what you think is going to do well. And any idea that he brings up, because I don't even know, the sports side of TikTok, which is what he knows, the trick shot sports side. So just listening to him, and any idea that he, brings to me usually does really well, it's really cool to see. I'd love to work with more influencers in the future, for sure too.
What does Nerf look for an influencer partnership? I would imagine being a genuine fan of Nerf is first and foremost, but there's plenty of fans who aren't that level of excellent content creator. So what passes Nerf muster when it comes to content creators?
That's a good question. I can only speak for the TikTok aspect, because they work with a lot of other influencers, but that's not my domain. So on TikTok, like you said, authenticity, just consistent quality content. It doesn't have to, it's a really interesting place to be, really original content. And then obviously super family friendly, even like swearing is sometimes on that line of like, I don't know if we can work with them just because Nerf is, such a kid's brand. And yeah, just, I don't know. Sometimes you just got to go a little bit with a gut feeling too. And I think that that's what we do a lot.
Now, as a creator yourself, you're surely kind of in touch with and attuned to the larger Nerf community on the internet, I'd imagine. So have you kind of brought any partnerships to Nerf, or are you not at that stage yet?
That's another interesting question. I definitely have people that I'm like, oh, they make awesome content, let's send them a PR package or something like that. As there just hasn't been, it's just a really interesting thing. I don't know how to explain it. Josh was already really into Nerf and was already kind of a part of the Nerf community in his own way, so that was really special. And there's a lot of content creators that are, primarily focusing on Nerf that I think would be awesome to work with in the future. So we're always looking at that. And, if they put a name on my desk and are like, oh, like, how do we feel about this person? I can give them, just like the view from the Nerf community of what, the overall vibe is. But yeah.
Now, you mentioned that you're hosting a live stream this week with the Nerf community. I'd love to hear more about how you're using the content creator community and influencers and all of that to build community around Nerf on TikTok. Or maybe it's kind of a separate initiative. Basically, how are you building community around Nerf on TikTok?
Yeah, so community is super important. And that's one thing that TikTok has been really, really cool with is really building that community just much larger, and finding people who haven't touched a Nerf blaster in 20 years, like I mentioned, but still love Nerf and, actually might go out and purchase a product now that they've remembered how fun Nerf can be. So the FanFest stream Friday is just me and the Nerf team announcing new products that we think that the fans are going to be super excited about. So a lot of community listening, genuinely, really, I read most of the comments and, see what people are saying about the content, what they want to see, and integrate that as best as I possibly can, implement that, see what other influencers are doing in the space, and see, where we can, kind of lean into that a little bit if need be. And most importantly, just continuing to expand that community of people to fit the more really, casual fan base is, I think a lot of people that watch the content, there's not like a million really, really diehard Nerf fans. Absolutely not. So like there's a lot of casual viewership and casual community that's really special.
Now, you mentioned that TikTok is kind of its own thing. That's why they have you. To what degree does the TikTok strategy tie into kind of the cross-channel Nerf content strategy, or does it?
Yeah, it doesn't at all. Really
interesting. Why did they make that choice?
There's a lot of different factors, but that's a good strategy for any company to use. The content that you're producing for TikTok should be very different than what you're producing for other social media. I know Instagram Reels is a whole thing, but just like static Instagram posts should not be just a repost to TikTok. It also doesn't give people a reason to follow both accounts. So I appreciate that. I've actually made some appearances on the Instagram, which is pretty cool. But yeah, just TikTok is its own beast, really. So just really focusing in on TikTok and being as TikTok specific as possible, I think is actually really interesting and has been really successful so far.
Are there kind of beats that you try to hit throughout the year, like back to school, like holiday shopping or anything like that? Or again, is TikTok just kind of its own content driven beast?
Yeah, I definitely like to lean into, things that are happening. When I first got hired, I was like, I don't know what to do. So I'd look up what national day it was and do National Donut Day. I don't do that as much anymore, but I already have a couple ideas for Halloween. One of our most viral videos was a Halloween video. So leaning into the seasons is totally fine. The lifespan of a TikTok is really only about 30 days. So it's pretty much relevant throughout that whole thing. And then, of course, just being super aware and cognizant of like social situations going on, and then maybe postponing a post or not posting a post, even if it's completely innocent. If sometimes there's weird like PR overlaps and stuff like that. So I'm hyper aware of the trends, just the news, and what other content creators are doing, what products we need to like launch, and then the seasons, the quarter. Yeah, there's so many factors.
How do you keep an eye on what other content creators are doing and sort of what trends you might want to get in on? The obvious answer is just being on TikTok, but I'm sure there's a bit more strategy than that. So how do you find those things?
I I could bluff right now, but honestly, that's
Don't
pretty
bluff.
much the
Keep it real.
No, I'm kidding. I get it. No, I mean really scrolling through TikTok it is honestly the best way to do it. And you can read like we have a like I see some people posting, what's trending this week. The lifespan of trends on TikTok is so small that by the time someone's written an article about it, it is a dead trend. So the best way to do it is just be on the ground, follow content creators who their like whole niche is following trends. So they're always early to the trends. I follow a lot of those content creators. And then really, if I'm just scrolling through my FYP and I'm like, wow, I've seen this filter 10 times and I've never seen it before, then working with that and being like, this is popping off. But you got to be on the ground level. I feel like that's the only way to stay up to date with it.
So clearly TikTok made an excellent strategic choice by starting with a creator. What are some ways that you see brands just go about influencer marketing the wrong way? You don't have to name names, but what are some wrong ways that you see companies attempting to leverage influencer marketing?
I've definitely seen a lot of someone will go viral and then they'll like lean into it, and the person who went viral is like just like a regular person, doesn't really understand influencer worlds, so they're gonna obviously accept a big brand deal, and then that brand deal feels so inauthentic. So just jumping on something just because it's doing well, if it doesn't fit into your brand, that doesn't make any sense to me. Usually that gets some pretty like harsh negative feedback. Also, just telling an influencer what to do versus working with them and like letting them have creative control, that's really the most important thing here. Yeah, I mean, you can't fit them into a mold. You have to let them do their own thing, and you pick a creator because you like what they create, so trust them to create it.
Love that. To that end, there are, of course, things like brand guidelines, certain parameters that you want to make sure the content going out as your brand fits within. How do you leverage that for Nerf while also respecting the creator's creative freedom?
Yeah, so there, we have like a playbook, just like phrases, energy, colors, things like that. Um, I know the brand literally inside and out, so for me that I didn't really need that. But when we go to an influencer, just tell them some of the pillars, just authenticity, fun, creativity, and really if you just give them some of those buzzwords and like parameters to follow, usually they'll still create something really cool. And then of course if they don't, you just give them really constructive feedback that is specific to the content, like the piece of content that they created. There's a lot of times when I'll get a video and just be like, all right, X, Y, and Z has to be changed, honestly. And so on the other hand, for the influencers out there, brands are not just trying to be nitpicky and annoying. Sometimes it's literally a whole chain from PR that's like, literally, this cannot be in the video. So just balancing all of that.
Now, how much do you have to meet, not numbers wise, but in terms of like percentage of your job, I guess, how much are you kind of given deliverables where it's like, okay, we have to see how this is converting? Or is TikTok at the moment just kind of a creativity channel and an awareness channel for you guys?
Yeah, I don't know. I gotta tread lightly here. I don't want to divulge too much information for their future strategy. But right now it is very just creative. I personally am very hard on myself, so I'm always looking at followers and views. But really, the deliverables are just putting out content that fits X, Y, and Z.
It's branding. That's fantastic. I love that. Now, one thing that caught my ear that you mentioned at the beginning was the creation of the mascot. I've seen this mascot. It haunts my dreams a little bit. If you could tell us a little bit about how that came about, why that came about, what the plans are for that mascot.
Yeah, so this is another thing that I can't really speak on too much because I wasn't a big part of it until I was handed the mascot. So that's that will be a whole nother podcast, honestly. But mascots are doing really well on TikTok. So I was very happy that they were working with the Martin Agency to create a mascot. And then once I was shown Murph, they were basically like, it was actually like a whole month for me of just create exclusively Murph content, Murph and Sophie content to launch. And I
Tell
actually got to
people
work.
about Murph. Like, what is Murph?
Well, Murph is Sophie Lightning's best friend. Murph is just the personification of play and joy and fun. A little bit mischievous, really, really funny, also super caring. And there's a whole, I've really wanted to create their personality in a really cool way that really fits the brand. So really, they're just the Nerf brand brought to life, and just want everybody to play and have fun type of thing.
Sorry, I was trying to find a picture of Murph that I could bring up. Murph essentially kind of looks like a Sasquatch or like Chewbacca or something made of Nerf bullets. Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah, just a bunch of Nerf darts, head to toe.
Nice. So, as you mentioned, mascots are really big on TikTok. We've all seen Duolingo's owl doing things. Does Murph have any plans to engage with other mascots on TikTok? As you said, Murph is Sophie Lightning's best friend. Are you doing any cross-channel stuff with your own channel and Murph, or does he pretty much just stick to Nerf, or they stick to Nerf?
Yeah, right now, really, there's just so many other things going on. So, haven't really gone too far into Murph, down the line, but Murph is also in a lot of commercials right now, like banners on retail and social, which is really cool. And then Murph is home base is the Nerf channel, has not made an appearance on mine. And right now, really what I'm doing with Murph is just making this content that is performing the best out of any content I've ever made. Is the Murph and Sophie
Wow.
skits. Just Murph being just these common like reality show tropes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what are you doing together? How are you leveraging Murph?
Yeah, so like one that recently popped off, we were doing a Nerf puzzle and lost a puzzle piece. So, just a classic, you have it, no, I have it, no, where is it? And like just rummaging through stuff, and then Murph, just does a little magic trick and pulls it out of nowhere. So just like a really fun story from start to finish. A simple trope that everybody understands and does well. Another one was when Murph takes the day off. So I'm in office, just incredibly sad and just like playing football with myself. Another like simple storyline, but it's one that literally, even if you don't know anything about Nerf, you can relate to that. Like when your best friend doesn't go to work that day. So, and then if you're paying attention, you can kind of see Sophie and Murph's relationship grow and develop over time. If you're like really investigating, when it first started, Murph and Sophie did not get along really at all. So
there is an actual Murph costume, a physical costume that someone can wear and act these things out? Or is Murph animated?
Murph is, real.
Murph's real. All right. And is Murph planning on making content with anyone else, or is he pretty much just your buddy right now?
Murph is my buddy right now. We'll see down the road. Murph's made appearances, San Diego Comic-Con. One of the more notable ones. Murph
That's
and
a big one.
There. Yeah, so
nice. Now, what are maybe some initiatives that you're planning on diving into when it comes to working with other influencers on TikTok? I know that you mentioned that Josh is a great partner. What are the plans there for sort of expanding that community of Nerf TikTok?
Like honestly, right now, still just trying to create this core content. I can just speak about working with influencers in general, though. Even on my personal channel, is that in the next year, I think that chief TikTok officer is going to be one of the biggest jobs. I was the first one in the world, and I think that it's going to be a common phrase this time next year. This is something that all brands really need to lean into. I think it works way better, honestly, than an agency, just because you have someone on the ground who is already doing something that they were passionate about and already creating that content, already self-taught. So that's showing so many things right there: resiliency, adaptivity, intelligence. Just, content creators really, really are really cool people putting in a lot of effort, and they understand what works well and what doesn't. And it's something that you can't really teach, you can't really present. It's something that you can really only get experientially. So just, I think you're going to see very soon that this creator economy is just absolutely going to boom. And I think that TikTok is really just getting started. There's a lot of conversations, if TikTok's already like decreasing. I don't see that happening whatsoever. I just continue to see them initiating updates and initiatives that just prolong the life of the application. They teased like this nearby filter the other day. So you had friends, FYP, and then nearby. That's a really interesting thing. So just as time continues to go on, brands really need to look at, just creating a face for the brand that people like and resonate with, and that can, turn around content quickly. That's one of the hardest things. A trend, if I find a trend, I'm posting it that day. I don't think a lot of agencies are, no hate to agencies, but I just don't think that there's a lot of other ways that you can really do that quick of a turnaround time otherwise. So having an in-house content creator is really cool. And it's like having job experience just being a content creator.
So creator-led content strategies and a shorter approval time, just trusting your creators. And it sounds like you said that maybe kind of an influencer to content strategy pipeline maybe can emerge at companies. As you said, people need chief TikTok officers. Why chief TikTok officers? What do you feel makes TikTok so different from a creator standpoint? And especially as all the other platforms are trying to copy TikTok now, what makes TikTok a platform for which companies should dedicate a specific creator-led content strategy?
That's a good question. I think just on a very basic level, I see the most wide, like diverse group of people on TikTok, like really young kids to like really older adults can understand and figure out the app. So I just feel like the audience is absolutely massive. And we're seeing all of these statistics that people are spending the most time on TikTok more than any other platform. They're using it in place of Google. You're sharing TikToks with everybody. So it is the app right now. And it's also a really interesting one because before, for example, on Instagram, if I really liked the brands, I would follow their Instagram exclusively to just know what was coming out next. I follow brands on TikTok because I genuinely like the content that they're making. I don't even care about the product really. Maybe if I'm looking at them or a competitor, I'm going to pick them just because I like their TikTok. So I think it's one of the first, and obviously take that with a grain of salt. I know that some people do this on YouTube already, but it's one of the first apps I see where like brands are people more than they are brands, and they're funnier, they're taking more risks, and they're making content that people really enjoy and want to follow to be entertained, not even because they're fans of the brand. And I think that that's the only place where we're really seeing that. And I think that that's the key here. That's the really special thing, is that I follow Duolingo because they're funny, not because I am learning a new language, exactly. But if I am going to learn a new language, I'm probably going to use Duolingo. So
yeah, so it has that entertainment factor and that personal connection factor first.
Mm-hmm.
And then that in turn trickles down into brand recognition, brand trust, and hopefully conversion. So that's kind of an upside down way of compared to how brands have previously looked at it. And it sounds like this is definitely the future of it. So you tap on two big things that a lot of brands know in theory they should be leveraging, but they're scared to, or they're not sure how. And that is creator-led influencer marketing and TikTok specifically. So what are some ways that brands can kind of let go of that old thinking and just get started? Like, how can they get started if it's something they know they need to do but haven't quite puzzled out yet?
Yeah, I will preface this with I'm still in college, and my marketing professors hate me. I try not to interject.
Why do they hate you? You're teaching them. Is that why they hate you? You're schooling them? Yeah. You're the future.
This is literally not applicable at all anymore. But yeah, I mean, the first thing is just do it. And that applies to literally anyone, not just brands. Creators, want to be creators, the same exact thing. Like, literally just do it. I understand that when you're a brand, there's a lot of risk. And, it can be really scary. But the pros and cons here, the cons are way, way heavier if you don't join TikTok than if you join TikTok and it's just like average and like performs medium. Like, that's totally fine. You don't have to be like the next biggest brand on TikTok to still like reap most of the benefits. So I mean, I would just say just go for it. And a lot of these brands I don't know how to say this nicely. I'm not really talking about Nerf or Hasbro because they got on TikTok. I think a lot of the brands that aren't on TikTok, the higher up you go, the older you get in the ladder. And the uppers just don't want to take this risk or do it. And it's really interesting because most of the target demos are, my generation. So I think you just got to start listening to this generation a little bit more. There's a lot of brands that are doing this super well. But if you had went to Duolingo 5 years ago and we're like, yeah, go create this absolutely out of pocket mascot personality that like
Yazaria's got a lot of trust there.
Yeah. They would have been like, what are you talking about? And then they did it and it absolutely paid off. Same thing with Nerf. Like, yeah, go hire a chief TikTok officer. They would have been like, what are you talking about? And sometimes it's worth just investing in and seeing what happens versus continuing to shovel money at something that's definitely not working. Why not just try something new and see if it works?
Yeah. Now, when it comes to influencer marketing strategy, as you pointed out, you and Nerf are going very creator-led, very creative freedom led. What are some things that you, as someone who's swimming in this world all day long, what are some things that you see emerging in how influencer marketing and creator-led marketing is shifting? What sort of trends are you seeing that whole influencer marketing field shift towards?
I mean, I'm going to go back to what I said earlier, which is I think the language is changing dramatically. I don't think it will even be called influencers in a couple of years. I don't know if I've ever met a content creator who like really likes that word. So that's just the first thing, just the most like black and white thing, but just immediately came to me there. And then otherwise, just continuing to see these content creators run these brand accounts and putting a lot of thought into the brands that they're working with and seeing their own value. That has been absolutely crazy, is to really see the shift from content creators who what are you doing? Like, that is pennies compared to what you should be getting paid. And finally seeing content creators understand their worth a bit more and hoping that brands can jump on that and understand that they're paying for something that can't be replicated any other way. So it is worth a bit of a premium, and it can be, expensive, but it's worth it. So I think that that's a big thing, is just a lot of advertising budgets are going to shift to more content creation, content creator budgeting versus typical media routes such as like commercials. I think that in the next 5 to 10 years, that's going to be polar opposites pretty much.
Another thing it sounds like you're saying is the previous model of looking at these partnerships as influencers and you're paying them to convert versus content creators and you're paying them for more nebulous things, perhaps like their creativity or their audiences or their content. How can brands kind of wrap their head around that when they're wondering kind of what are they paying for when it comes to those creator partnerships? How are those agreements even worded if they're not the old school like pay per click, pay per conversion? How is that sort of partnership being redefined?
Yeah, so if someone comes to me right now, any brand, I don't really care how big they are, and they're like, we're just gonna give you commission based on like link clicks, that's an immediate no for me. But I would put it in 2 boxes. So an influencer campaign can perform really well if you get an A-list celebrity to just talk about a product. Like, that can still work. That's just not really as prevalent anymore. So when you're looking at that, you're literally just paying for their likeness and their immense amount of followers. If you got 10 million followers, chances are there's some of your target demo in that. Content creation, you're paying for their audience, which is a hyper niche specific target demo that you can't really put a price on, honestly. Like, I've gone through the billion people that use TikTok and found the 2 million that really, really love Nerf. That's invaluable. You're also paying for, like you said, their creativity. They're, actually putting a spin on it and creating unique content versus just sitting there and talking about the products. So I don't think that, like, that influencer marketing is going to go away. I don't think it's potentially the worst thing in the world. It can be really successful. It's not like a bad thing. It's just, I think that people need to kind of shift their mindset a little bit and see, this guy may have 100,000 followers, but look at that engagement rate. Look at how much people love the content that he's making. It's getting 100,000 likes a video for the 100,000 followers. Like, that's incredible. Let's lean into that a little bit more.
And that goes super well into the next thing I was going to say, which is we hear about nano influencers and micro influencers and all of that. So that's very kind of follower based. It sounds like you have a more holistic, creator driven approach. You look at engagement rate and how much people are actually enthused about their content rather than just kind of empty numbers. What are some other things that you look at and that you think maybe brands should look at when assessing if a creator is a good fit for their brand?
Yeah, I mean, followers don't matter as much as people say. They do matter, though. Like, I still understand, like, it's I don't know how much effort goes into sometimes getting like 10,000 followers. So it's a really interesting, like, fine line to walk. But I wouldn't just pick someone just because they have a lot of followers. That's kind of more of what I was trying to say there. But yeah, just making sure, like I said, that their personal likeness and their personal brand. Content creators are brands. Let's just get that out of the way. Let's just say that, so that their brand fits your brand is really what's most important here. And if you're just genuinely a fan of their content, first of all, like, if you're scrolling through, you're running the marketing team, and you're like, this is like weird, or I don't like this, like, that's important. Honestly, like, a gut check is always what I always go by gut checks partially. Engagement rates are just incredibly important. And then the originality of the content. There are so many accounts that just do a carbon copy of what everyone else does, and maybe they get 1 million followers, but it's just like a void of emptiness. And maybe you do have someone with 100,000 followers who's making like these incredible short films that just like haven't broken into the algorithm yet, and you're like, this is incredible pieces of content. They don't have as many followers, so they're not even going to be as expensive. Let's lean into this a little bit and, take a more, interesting route versus just doing what everyone else is doing.
To that end, if you had just complete free reign, like Nerf said, you can have unlimited budget, unlimited creative control, no boundaries, as much time or staff as you need to accomplish this. What would your dream influencer strategy, content creator driven strategy for Nerf look like?
That's crazy.
I know. No limitations. What would you do if you could literally do whatever you wanted when it came to creator-led content strategy?
All right, hot take. I guess first of all is I wouldn't really up production at all. We've seen that it doesn't work well. If you make something that looks like it could be a Super Bowl ad, I'm not putting that on TikTok anyway. So I would use that money much more just for, like travel, spaces, philanthropic endeavors. The content wouldn't even look that much different. I would just have more ideas basically and do more ideas. Really,
you mentioned philanthropic endeavors. What sort of things do you mean? Things that assist creators? Do you mean causes that you think would align with the brand strategy?
Yeah, I would, both, but really primarily causes that align with the brand strategy. What
would some of those be?
I mean, there's a lot of people that go into like Walmart right now and they're like, I'll buy everybody's groceries for the next 10 minutes. Like that's cool. Really just giving back in any way. Especially, you know, the audience is more like kids and teenagers. So, you know, I would love to do like a school, like donate school supplies type one, like give every student a MacBook or something. Like that would be sick. So just stuff like that, that like actually genuinely helps people. Because then you get into this whole other conversation of like, well, you take this really like giving route, but it's not even something that people wanted to be given in the first place, and you're just using it to like gain clout. So it'd be pretty much the opposite of that, really.
Nice. Now, as you mentioned, TikTok is very much its own strategy. And I know that that's where you spend your time. That's where your head is at in terms of creator and content strategy. But what do you think is something that other channels could learn from the TikTok creator community that would probably apply productively to them as well in terms of how they're leveraging creators?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say see what's doing well. Yeah, and there's content that is cross compatible, and I think what we're seeing is this trend of like more personable, more like one takes, that type of thing, not super polished. And I think that that's an interesting place to lean into and be not cringy relatable, but actually relatable, which is a whole nother fine line. But you know, like I said, just doing things that are not, I think just breaking traditions of marketing. Like the past 10 years have been insane for internet and marketing in general. And these traditional routes just aren't, like, I haven't watched a TV commercial in years. And like there are still brands that put millions of dollars into TV commercials and don't have a TikTok account. And that just confuses me.
Now, this one you may not want to touch, but everyone's talking about strategy for Web3, for the metaverse, for online communities. Do you have any thoughts on how the creator-led economy can play into that in terms of how brands use creators?
Yeah, I mean, this is just speaking as Sophie, not really as chief TikTok officer, but
That's fine. Sophie knows plenty. That's why she's chief TikTok officer.
um, I mean, I've definitely seen brands that are doing Web3 campaigns that are being successful. It's an interesting place to be because it's not like there is a TikTok that is Web3 yet, if that makes sense. It's more like, it's like asking a brand 30 years ago, like, how are you going to get on the internet? And they're like, the internet is so big and massive. Like what exactly are you asking? You know what I mean? So if there's like something that really starts taking off that people genuinely like we saw, you know, NFTs, which are interesting because they're not always received well. So I mean, personally, I'm a little hesitant. It's an interesting place to be, like, philosophically as well. Like, I don't know if VR is actually going to be what people think it's going to be. And it's just to see these technological shifts over the next 5 to 10 years, have it on your radar, be hyper aware, understand it, monitor it. But I don't know if you need to jump on it quite yet.
Awesome. Well, we have learned so much today about creator-led content creation, about trusting your creators, all of that. If you could leave brands with just kind of one final message about how that whole influencer marketing, creator-led marketing landscape is shifting and what they should really, really not sleep on, what would be kind of the one thing you'd tell people to make sure to be aware of?
There's so many.
You can do a few. We'll take it.
I mean, yeah, just really just, I guess, just how do you want, what do you want your brand strategy to be? Do you want to be defensive, holding your ground, doing things that used to work, or do you want to take risks and be innovative and play offense a little bit? And I see that the risk taking almost always is the better way to go. And how do you do that? Do you hire someone, hot take, who's still in college or doesn't have a college degree or doesn't have experience yet? Like, there's a lot of ways that you can go about this, and they're not the traditional route, but that doesn't mean that they're the bad route.
Awesome. It's all about that trust. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Sophie. Tell everyone where they can and should find you, both you and Nerf.
Thank you. Yeah, so Nerf is Nerf everywhere. Primarily, on TikTok, go check us out, Nerf. And then I'm Sophie.lightning everywhere as well, primarily on TikTok and Instagram. And then Sophie Jameson on LinkedIn.
There you go. Fantastic. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Sophie.
Thank you for having me.
And so this has been How I Do My Job. I'm going to be coming at you the first Wednesday of every month, talking to someone who's actually in the trenches of social media to get their take on something that really matters to businesses today. Thanks for joining us. I'm Christine Gritman for Agorapulse. Bye.